Carly, and I'm back again with another review. So we are continuing on looking at our Spider-Man No Way Home figures, and today we are going to be taking a look at the black suit Spider-Man. Now before I get started on this review, which will be complete, I have to let you guys know that I'm pretty sure that I got a damaged toy off of the line. Sometimes that happens when they're mass producing action figures. Everything can't always come out perfect, and sometimes things just get a little bit off course. So there are some things that I'm going to be talking about with my figure that will probably not apply to most of the figures on shelves. Sometimes when you buy as many toys as we do, as I do as a collector, you just get an unlucky pull, and this is kind of the case for this particular figure, but I don't want that to taint what I think of the figure overall. I just want you to know that I'm not going to be able to talk about everything without talking about the issues. So please don't think that every figure off the shelf is going to be this way. I know for a fact that it won't, but that's what I have in hand, so that's what I'm going to talk about. All of that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our Peter Parker black suit Spider-Man. So for those of you who have not seen the movie yet, the story behind this black suit is pretty funny. So after Peter is exposed by Mysterio as Spider-Man, the city begins to turn on him, which is a theme that we've seen in Spider-Man comics so often, and it was so refreshing to finally see that really played out well in the movies. Because in the comic books, Peter has a really hard time with his identity because J. Jonah Jameson is relentless in portraying him as a villain. And the reason that J. Jonah Jameson in the comic books portrays him as a villain is because he believes that Peter Parker killed his son. So that is something that is not discussed very often in the movies and other iterations, but it's a really valid reason. He's not just some like hell-bent lunatic who has no reason and is just out for views or whatever, or, subscriptions on his newspaper. He really has a very deep and personal connection to the fact that he believes that Spider-Man was responsible for murdering his son. The story there is that his son was an astronaut and he was getting ready to fly into space. Peter had become privy to a problem with the rocket that he was in and tried to climb the side of the rocket to get him out safely and rescue him, but wasn't able to. He was able to save himself, of course, and to everyone, including J. Jonah Jameson, that made it look really suspicious. Spider-Man was new on the scene, and it really kind of looked like he set up the accident and got out just in time with his own life. So anyway, that is a lot of backstory, but it's really nice in the movie to see the reality of what it would mean to be exposed as a superhero. People don't know what his true intentions are. If he's not showing his face, they have to wonder why. And when he's exposed without his permission, it makes him seem even more suspicious. So I really like the way that was done in the movie. Back to the toy. The reason that he has a black suit on is because someone throws this green dye all over his regular spider suit because they believe that Mysterio was the good guy and that he was murdered by this bad guy. So it's sort of like when somebody throws red paint on fur and says, no fur, they throw this green paint all over his spider suit. Then the adventure of the actual movie starts, and in order to go out and do his work without looking crazy, he and MJ dye the suit. So they dye it black, and he goes out and starts trying to round up all of the villains. And that is why there is a little bit of inconsistency in the color. There are still some red paints or red portions of the costume because those were undamaged. This stain was like sort of right here. And this was just what they were able to come up with on short notice so that he didn't look like a buffoon while he was going out to try to gather up these villains. So I am really happy to have a black suit Spider-Man, and as I said in the beginning of the video, it's just a little bit unfortunate that this one in particular seems to have come off the line with some issues. We're going to talk about those really quick, and then we'll talk about the overall figure itself. So the first issue that I have is right here on the shoulder. You will notice that there is a lump of plastic. I hope that you can see that. When I put the shoulder up, you absolutely will, because it is the plastic overlay actually had a gouge in it. So when I can't lift the arm because it is bumping up against the shoulder joint, I can push it down with my fingernail right here like this, and then use the joint appropriately. but I've sort of tested that a few times as you can see, so it's not really working anymore. So after just a couple of uses, that prevents the movement on that side of the shoulder. The second issue with my particular figure is the paint application. It is very spotty and uneven. You can see here on the elbow, it's just incomplete. The coverage is not great on the gold over the black. We've got sort of uneven coverage on the accents, the webbing accents, and it's just not a very sound paint application overall. The third thing that I have an issue with this particular figure is that the finish on the product doesn't seem to have been applied evenly or is incomplete. So I have these portions you can see here on the thighs where there is like a shiny plasticky streak that doesn't come off. It's like a clear plastic coating, and that also affects, it seems like there was maybe a scratch, so there's some scarring as well on this particular figure. Yeah, so I think that basically covers it. Now there is like a pattern kind of in the suit. It's like the way that it seems like there might have been, some of it might have been intentional, or that it was like accidentally applied from a different figure. So some of it is like square shapes, but the positioning of it doesn't really make sense, and it's not consistent from thigh to thigh, and it's not evenly applied, so it really just looks like a scratch. So it might not be scarring, but it's definitely poorly applied detailing for me on that particular figure. So I kind of got a bit of a dud as far as production. But for the figure itself, when I get one that is in good working order, I think this is going to be a fantastic figure. And the first thing I want to talk about is the butterfly joints. So we just looked at our Miles Morales, our Gamer vs. Miles, who was absolutely spectacular. And I will note that figure is much more substantial than this one. So he's bigger, he's heftier, it uses the bigger body style. So this is a lot lighter, but the butterfly joints are functional on this one, really functional. We get a great range of motion, and as I've said, Spider-Man is one of the most acrobatic superheroes. We need that range of motion. So that is an A+ spectacular. I'm so happy about the butterfly joints. We have great movement in the head. I'm not going to show this arm because we already know that one's not going to work properly, but everything else on the functioning arm is perfect. We have a great turning bicep that is functional and works great. We have a bending arm that is functional and works great, and a turning wrist. I will say there are two sets of hands with this. So obviously we have our web shooting hands. These are the additional hands, and those always look great and will probably be what I use, because the other set of hands are a little bit strange to me. There are no other accessories that come with the figure, and these are the hands that we get. They're sort of, they could be posed as fists like this. So it could be like a fighting stance, and that actually looks pretty good. But they are, look like he should be holding like a nightstick or something. They're not gun hands. They don't have a trigger finger. It literally looks like you could just stick a baton in there, and both of them are like that. So I feel like the sculpt on these hands is a little bit weird, but the web slinging hands are perfect, so I'm gonna use those. That'll be fine. Then of course, with this slider body build style, you guys know that we're gonna have an excellent ab crunch, and we absolutely do. We have a wonderful turning waist that is functional and easy to use. We have fully flexible legs with a turning thigh, a knee that bends. We do not have a boot turn on this figure, but we do have nice, flexible, functional feet. So the articulation on this is going to be great. I know that some of you will miss the boot turn. You guys know personally that I don't, so you might miss the boot turn, but I will say that the butterfly joints are so spectacular that you can kind of make up for a little bit of lost ground there. The hand sculpt is strange, but the rest of the sculpt, when I get one that has a good paint application, I think is really spectacular. I love the way this suit looks. I love the contrast of the gold and black, and I think that when I get one that's a little bit more evenly applied, I'm gonna be really, really happy with it. The great news is that I have seen a few of these. So of all of the figures in the line, there were some that were really difficult to come by and track down. This wasn't one of them. So it's always a bummer when you don't get a perfect paint application, or if there's a little ding or a nick or something that doesn't work great on a figure. But in the case of this one, he's readily available, so I'm totally fine going to pick him up. And yes, I do know that I can request a replacement from Hasbro. I have done that before. And if you get a figure like this, I recommend that you do it because they have wonderful customer service and they will take great care of you. For me, I'd really rather just have it on my shelf right now, and I can think of some fun things I might like to try to do with this one. I'm not great at customizing, but sometimes it's just fun to play, so I'm happy to keep him. I don't want to send him back, so I'm just gonna find another one. But yeah, so I would definitely say that this is worth having. After having the Miles, which has a black suit obviously, and this being a little bit smaller, it can feel a little bit underwhelming, but it's very, very true to the Tom Holland No Way Home Spider-Man. And it looks great. I mean, overall, everything works on it beautifully. The sculpt is beautiful. The paint application, when done correctly, will be beautiful. And you'll be really happy to have it on your shelf. It's worth getting, but I would say examine it closely in the box before you pick it up. There were other ones on the shelves. I was just stoked to have him. I grabbed him and went. That is a character flaw of my own. I do that all the time. I get so excited about a toy, I grab it and then get it home and see the eyes are wonky, or something obvious that I could have seen in the package if I would have been looking is a little bit off, and I'm like, "Urgh." So that was my mistake on this one. I would say inspect him pretty closely. Make sure the paint application is even and heavy. Make sure that he doesn't have any type of loose pieces of plastic. There are some other loose, little loose seams that he has that also look like they could peel off, you know, in his inner thigh joint. There was some on the side of his feet. So it's like just that little loose thin string of plastic that looks like it could pop off. Just examine it really closely. There could be a number of reasons why this came out this way. It could have to do with the overlay. The paint being metallic over a black could be really difficult, and I know that there are good ones out there. So just make sure you do your due diligence before you buy it, and I think everyone will be really, really happy with this figure. So that is my review of the Black Suit Spider-Man from No Way Home. It's been really fun to look at it, and it's been really fun to go through this series. Our next figure will probably be Shriek, but make sure you comment in the comment section below and let me know which figure you'd like to see next. I will be doing videos really regularly now. I have a very open schedule for recording, so look forward to videos. Make sure that you're subscribed and your notification bells are turned on, and I will be back really soon with a live. It's been a bit since I've done one, and I always have fun interacting with you guys one-on-one, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you're checking the announcements in my community channel on my YouTube channel, and follow me on Instagram at your_annoying_friend_car. I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I will be back soon with another one. Bye, friends!